Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Monisha, for that very warm welcome. Very nice of you. And it's so wonderful to be here with all of you on this wonderful topic. Yes, every conversation today, when you get into a business discussion with a client, the first 10 minutes, have to be kept for COVID. What is the impact of COVID, and how are you doing? How, and the new normal.
Absolutely.
As Amalda would like to, say, what is the new normal? The new normal is that, you start your email with, hope this email finds you safe.
Yeah. That's
right. And then, you end the email by saying, we hope that all goes well. Well, stay safe. That's the, so what to say now? I mean, this, don't know whether this will stay, will not stay, how much of it will stay, how much of it will not stay. But what I thought we could do today is I'll give you a little brief on the journey of Hunt Partners, just a 5-minute quick background there so that it puts it in context, and then see how we can actually apply that to what's going on today and what we are seeing from our vantage point, if one may say. And what are the opportunities therefore going forward, because there's always going to be opportunities. So if we can move to the next slide, please, that would be great. So Hunt Partners, essentially, we started in 2004. It was actually set up in Mumbai, Hong Kong, and New York. And it was essentially a financial services firm. I'm one of the founding partners of the firm. We were doing splendidly well till before 2008. We had expanded very rapidly into Singapore, Beijing, Shanghai, Bangalore, and it was all looking really great. The story was, I remember one day, one of my partners told me he got $1 million in fees. The next day, another partner said he got $500,000 in fees. There were no caps on fees in those days, 25% if you were charging. If somebody was paying $4 million, which wasn't uncommon in those days, you could pick up a $1 million fee or a $500,000 fee. Those were numbers that we had never heard of till then, and we never heard of after that. So post the GIC, well, what do you expect? The global financial meltdown. We got whittled down. Believe it or not, pretty much all the offices packed up, and it was only Mumbai left. So now in 2009, we were 2 partners. We rebuilt back to a 6-partner firm. It's only a Mumbai and an India-based entity. And why am I telling you this? It's because, things happen. I would like to use the French version of it, that shit happens. But, you've got to be able to rebound back. And this is one of those second occasions, at least, which is yet another disaster. And how are you going to bounce back? So let's look at what exactly is this new normal? How many things are going to be different, and what are we going to see? If we can move to the next slide, please. So if we think about the new normal, I'm sure all of you have been reading in the papers. Will it be a V-shaped recovery? Will it be a U-shaped recovery? There are all kinds of letters being given. But I tell you, the one that really resonated with me was the K-shaped recovery. This is actually a very unhappy situation. Why is it an unhappy situation? And I don't mean to sound dismal, because there are always opportunities where things are not, good. So there is opportunity in the, let's say, the negative aspect of it as well. But why is it not good? Because, see, it's not good because what this K-shaped recovery means, for those of you who have been actually reading about it, is that the smaller guy, whoever it may be, whether it's a poor person, a small company, a smaller, not so well-off country, all these will get compromised. What is going to do well are those who are either already large or who can sustain, whether it's a company, whether it's an individual, The wealthy will only get wealthier at a faster pace. That is really what a K-shaped recovery means. And that's why, because I have this little, uh, as you may have seen, Monisha was talking about my profile. I have this kind of a socialistic bent of mind where, I believe that capitalism has to have a very different flavor tagged along with some elements of socialism, so that you can't just leave people behind. You have to carry those who are not so fortunate along with you, and the whole nation must progress together. But apparently what the K-shaped recovery model really says is that that's going to be harder and harder to happen. So whether it's America, where you're seeing this disparity uh, with the blacks, the movement over there, or whether it's a country like India, where 800 million people live in less than $2 a day, that's not going to get better in a hurry. Also, the fact that when we went into this lockdown, I see that for all of you who might have read, and I'm only telling you the obvious, we were a 3.8% GDP economy as we were going into lockdown. So things had actually started to look pretty bad for India from a GDP growth perspective. Now, coming out of lockdown, even if we were to hit the numbers, and if you are seeing the GST numbers, um, today, if you see GST, we are at about 90,000 crores a month. The peak that we had hit was about 1,10,000 crores. So we are almost back at about 90% of GST. If you look at the e-way bills, if you look at electricity consumption, it's all pretty much back to close to what the 2019 numbers were, which is in a way a very good sign, very good sign. But the challenge is that we are coming back to a 3.8% growth economy. And also, at this point in time, which was not the case in, you can say, Q4 of 2019, the world was not doing badly. The world was doing fine. Now we are coming back into a 3.8% economy when actually the world is also not doing fine. So overall, yes, I'm not painting a pretty picture. I don't want to paint a pretty picture, because I want us to think about how we are going to be able to survive if it is not going to be a pretty picture. So that if actually it does end up not being as sort of difficult as I'm making it out to be, then we will only be doing better. So one of the very interesting things that happens at a time like this is that, so for those of you who may not be aware, let's put it this way, everybody is aware in their own way, but the recruitment industry has been going through sliding down, what we call the S curve of commoditization. So all of you would have already experienced that it's harder to get business. The customers have already got pre-COVID, higher expectations. They can get fairly excitable when things don't go their way, if you're delaying on the timelines. So all around, we have been seeing that the expectations from the customers have already been increasing, and prices have been getting pushed down. So maybe there are people above us who are taking our business away. There are people below us whose business we are taking away, and so on and so forth. But essentially, what is happening is that the executive search industry, as we know it, or the recruitment industry in general, is getting commoditized. It's a 70-year-old industry. What do you expect, right? Search started in the US in the 1950s, and pretty much nothing changed. We didn't do anything differently until LinkedIn came upon us. Now, what has LinkedIn actually done? In their own words, they have democratized the recruitment industry. Let's spend a minute over here to understand what does this really mean. So what it really means is that earlier, we would spend lakhs of rupees in maintaining this so-called proprietary database. And it was our pride and joy. So we would go into the market and tell customers, guys, Hunt Partners has a database of 150,000 senior people. We have access to this kind of talent that nobody does. And of course, few top-end search firms were making the same claims. We all knew that it was very hard to maintain a database, because at the end of the day, 5% of your database literally becomes redundant every day. So you had to have a battery of 15, 20 people trying to keep that database updated, emails keep changing, mobile numbers keep changing. And then here comes along LinkedIn. And LinkedIn says that India is one of the most prolific countries where usage is the highest. And I have to say that it's a rare individual who doesn't have his profile on LinkedIn. So I don't know what that number could be. Maybe 20% of the population doesn't have their profile on LinkedIn, but let's say 80%, 70 to 80% of the population does have their profile on LinkedIn. What does that really mean? What that means is now it's accessible to everybody. It doesn't matter whether I think of myself as a high-end search firm and somebody else is a one-man band, or they have a small team of 3-4 people, but we all have access to the same talent. So I can no longer go to my client and tell them that, guys, okay, sorry, I think somebody's got there. So I can no longer go to my client and tell them that, guys, we have access to the kind of technology, the kind of database that nobody else has, because now everybody has access to good talent. And that's what democratization means. But it's only further going to take us down the S curve, because that means your erstwhile understanding of the search and the recruitment business has changed forever. The erstwhile understanding was proprietary. Today, nothing is proprietary. It's all open source. And if you can't find the individual on LinkedIn, you can find them on Bloomberg. If you can't find them on Bloomberg, there are any number of databases that are available on the internet that you can find talent. And the last line over there, you see, I call it a bad drug. Why do I call it a bad drug? Because what has happened is it's very easy to find mediocre talent on LinkedIn. It's very hard to find superior talent on LinkedIn. So what do our associates do? Our associates, the moment you get a mandate, the first thing they do is they go to LinkedIn. And in the bargain, what has ended up happening? What has ended up happening is that they have forgotten how to do headhunting. In the good old days, I don't know when this was, but perhaps in the 1990s, when I learned executive search, we would lock ourselves into a room. We would take our phone. We would have a list of people to call, and we would call these individuals, and we would use them to give us more names. But what the advantage of that was that if you were referred a name by somebody who was good, then it would be a high chance that that name would end up being a good person as well. And that is how executive search kept on getting done till at least the early 2000s, mid 2000s, till before LinkedIn became prolific. But today, it's very hard to keep your young associates and the so-called researchers off LinkedIn. So I actually tell people in the team, if you bring a name in the first 1 week that has come from LinkedIn, you have had it. I do not want to see a single name from LinkedIn in the first 2 weeks of the search. Yes, after that, if you want to supplement, no problem. But in the beginning, please, you got to talk to the candidates. We have an ample number of people who are on our database, who are friends of the firm. There's no sector which we cannot reach out to. But that is really the new normal, right? And all of this, if you think about it, is not something new that I'm telling you. But what has COVID really done? COVID has accelerated the future. COVID has accelerated the future. The future is now upon us. While it might have taken 5 more years or 10 more years, now it's happened in a year. And this is really my view or our view of the new normal. Moving on to the next slide, what are some of the other interesting things that you're going to see in the new normal? The mobility of talent. When you think about what is happening with our talent today, the mobility of talent is got a very different complexion than what it was in the past. Because as we all know, it's no longer work from home, it's work from hometown. I got a call from my colleague. He, on his own, voluntarily told me, I'm sitting in Bangalore. He's a Bombay guy. We have only office in Bombay, as I said. I'm sitting in Bangalore. in my parents' home. And I was totally cool with it. I said, yeah, I'm so happy for you. And you get to meet them. Because why? Because of the fact that I know it's going to have now zero impact on his productivity, whether he's locked down in his Bombay home or he's locked down in his parents' home in Bangalore. But then what does that mean from the perspective of one of the most important criteria that our clients always talk about with us? Boss, if the guy is not going to relocate, we cannot look at him. How many times must we all have heard that, right? And then when the individual cannot relocate and he happens to be or she happens to be the last candidate, the finalist candidate, we are like, oh no, not again. Because some excuse or the other. I heard the best one, which I heard, at least in my career, was mother-in-law's Joshi said, mother-in-law's Joshi said कि बेटा तुम मत जाओ वहां पे, बॉम्बे मत जाओ. तो ठीक है, हो गया खत्म, finished. Oh, sorry, I didn't want to be talking in Hindi because I know all of us don't speak Hindi, but that, can you imagine after putting in so much effort, right? But anyway, those are all good stories which we can enjoy over a drink. But the fact of the matter is that now it's completely no longer a barrier. Now, will this stay? Will it not stay? I don't know, obviously, because it depends on how long the pandemic actually lasts. It depends on how the journey over the next 6-8 months continues. But I can tell you one thing, and I was completely amazed. Going before into lockdown, we had some mandates which had started where the client had met the candidates pre-lockdown. Those got closed. Some of them, of course, completely got disbanded. That's a separate matter. And then there was some which got started, and we all asked the question that, is somebody going to really hire a CEO or a one down without actually meeting the person physically? And we all must have by now have had experiences where, yes, the finalist candidate has actually joined and even gone through their first induction process totally virtually. It would have never been imagined that you have not physically met the lady or the man who's going to join, right? I'm sure we all know that and would agree with that. So that is what I'm talking about when I say mobility. Things have changed and they may continue to change even further. What are some other things about mobility? Other things about mobility that we now see is that if a job in Jaipur pays you 2 lakh rupees a month, the same job in in Mumbai might pay you 4 lakh rupees a month. But if I'm okay with you working from Jaipur, maybe I might pay you 3 lakh rupees a month, because the cost of working from Mumbai, as we know, is significantly higher. But if the productivity of that role does not get impacted, then maybe it's okay. So you'll have hybrid salaries. And another version of that, taking it one step further, is that there could be individuals, as we know in the IT industry, who are sitting in India and working for companies in the US, but they don't get paid a US salary. Then there are individuals who are sitting in the US for these same IT companies who are getting paid a US salary. Now, what if that US salary individual, the woman says, I'm going back to India? Or maybe Mr. Trump has decided that she doesn't get her H-1B and whatever work visa doesn't get extended. She says, I'm going back to India. Her boss in America says, oh, but you are such a phenomenal worker, Aarti. We can't afford for you to go to India. But she convinces him and says, okay, or convinces her and says, well, I've been productive all this while. Did you even know I was in office or not in office? What if I work from India? Now, the question which gets picked up at that point in time is, what will her salary be? Will she be paid an Indian salary, or will she be paid an American salary, or will she be paid a hybrid salary? So hybrid salaries might actually become the norm. Mobility has taken on a completely different meaning altogether. And it will, of course, remain to be seen how much of this, as I said, stays and sticks or doesn't. We don't know. But yes, the new normal also is that jobs have got cut. There are jobs which will get extinguished in permanency. They will not never be there again. I know, I feel bad. There are so many people at the absolute bottom of the pyramid who have lost their jobs. Because if you are a security guard in a building and I'm a facilities maintenance company, why would I pay
I think is there a net problem? Net connectivity is gone?
Yeah, looks like.
Yeah, Mr. Sunit,
Yeah, we can't hear him.
you can't hear him. Yeah, his picture is paused.
Yes. Who has his number? Can someone call up?
Siddiq and
I've already sent him a message.
Okay,
okay.
great.
Yeah.
He looks so much like his dad. My God.
Yeah, that's right.
Striking resemblance.
No, but he's not read my message. So let me phone him up.
Do that, please.
No, he's not picking up the phone.
Oh,
Let me see.
He could have logged in from his phone, probably.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, sir, you have joined again.
Yeah, sorry everybody, I'm back.
Good. Welcome back.
Yeah, this is also part of the new normal. What you're going to do? I mean, and
that's
I
what
just
we were just wondering.
Yeah,
no
so
matter,
there you are.
no,
There you
sorry, no matter how much one plans, we have two. Can you believe it? We have two Wi-Fi at home now, and because obviously there is so much demand for video, but still, I think we'll need three now. God knows. But anyway, I'm sorry about that. So
That's
I hope it
okay,
doesn't happen
yeah.
again. So the point that I was where I got cut off, I think, was around the acceleration of digital. And what we keep hearing now is that COVID has done more for digitalization of the world than any government could have really done, and that's huge upside. And actually, if you think about, if you keep aside deaths, I think we all would agree, and the deaths and the sickness, of course, we would all agree that COVID has only done good for the world. Yes, the deaths and
Yeah, I think
Again, you lost him.
Yeah, but is it possible for him to put off the video then? He can put off the video.
His net connection only is bad. That's
This is playing up.
Yeah,
Can you hear me? Am I?
yes, Sunit, you may like to put off the video.
I'll do that next time if it happens. Is it audible now?
Yeah,
Yes,
of course. we can
yes.
hear.
yes.
Okay.
Please, go on.
So the earlier the products that were being sold in maybe 7 major cities of India, now a lot of those products are going to get sold in maybe 50 different cities of India. Why this change? So why this change? Because you can always say that, hey, well, HUL created the sachet and took shampoo to the villages of our country. Sure, of course, no doubt about that. But today the big difference is that if you are not in HUL and you don't have your own supply chain, you don't have to worry, because the last mile is no longer your problem. It's being taken care of by Swiggy. It's being taken care of by Dunzos of the world. Similarly, when you talk about education, as we all know,
Online.
Byju's of the world, everything has gone online, right? And so therefore, what is going to happen in the next decade in the villages and small towns of India is going to be a paradigm shift, because while these super highways will never come, but the information highways have overlaid, and we have seen how, barring a few glitches on the technology, barring a few of those glitches, we have seen how effective and immersive the experience can be just using your mobile phone or your laptop. So under the circumstances, what are the opportunities and what should be a thinking or a direction for the search firms? If we can move to the next slide. One of the big shifts that we are really seeing is that we will have to really think about broad basing. And this, if you see, is a journey again that got started by the, Siddhi, if you can take it on the next slide, please. The
We have lost him again.
Yeah, he's trying to come
So
back.
I'm sorry,
Yes.
something really bizarre today. I've never had this happen. I've had so many Zoom calls, conferences. I just cannot understand what is happening. I'm so sorry. It really, I know this is being very disruptive. I'm sincere apologies for this.
No
I have
issues.
no
Let's go ahead.
explanation.
Sure.
Uh, so so yes, coming back to what I was saying in terms of the opportunities, one of the great opportunities is that your clients really may not ask you now to be physically located close to their own place of work. Earlier, we used to say the 1 square mile of London. We used to say New York. Why? Why are these such hotbeds of the recruitment industry? Because pretty much you are accessible to the lawyer, the investment banker, the headhunter, just within 1 square kilometer. In fact, it is a reality that even my own customer base, pretty much 70% as my practice. I happen to live in Lower Parel. My practice is private equity, as Monisha mentioned in the beginning. 70% of the private equity firms are in Lower Parel. Now, that physicality is probably going to be less important. And I think that is a phenomenal opportunity. So if you were not thinking about the fact that you would access clients in other cities, if you didn't have presence over there, or if you had presence, but you didn't look at maybe other geographies, perhaps geography will begin to matter less. I think the focus is now going to be more on the merit and not on the physical. If you can deliver, if you are a better delivery capability firm, then the client will gravitate towards you more than ever so before. Once people get used to the fact that we actually don't need to see you and we don't need to meet you in our office. I think that is a phenomenal opportunity, and that's a very, very big change, especially for smaller organizations. Yes, if you are a very large recruitment company and you have presence in maybe 5 major cities of India, then maybe it won't matter to you very much. But if you are just in 1 city or 2 cities, I think this will make a huge difference. The other thing which we see is that when you think about people, we will have to kind of think about changing our staff. Why? Because of the fact that earlier you could sit in the office and actually push people to do things because they would be sitting there for 9 hours a day. Maybe you would push and meet your next in line junior. The next in line junior would push the next in line junior, and so on and so forth. Even that had an element of physicality associated with it, that we had to be physically co-located to actually get people to work. But when you are virtual, very hard to get people to work. So what will happen over time is that self-motivated people will win, and those who need pushing constantly to deliver, they will probably fall off. Also, what it means, therefore, is that we will end up having teams which are more high-powered, more dynamic, virtual, as well as light. And if you really think about the business model, then the business model also takes on a similar complexion. Even though we have a beautiful office in a very, very fancy building called 1 BKC, pre-COVID, we thought it's a great investment for the brand. I remember some partners coming from Corn Ferry, they remarked that this was significantly better than their office. But we are today rethinking that cost, and we are rethinking the value, because we are also saying, okay, does it really matter that your employees and your team sit over there? Your clients may or may not ever come to that office. So then what is the value of that so-called marquee office? But that also presents an opportunity, because the opportunity now is that we can say, okay, great. So we will take 2-people business center in Gurgaon, 2-people business center in Bangalore, 1-person business center in Hyderabad, and we'll have co-located offices, and employees can pretty much sit wherever they want. If you want to have, we will have 4 offices in Bombay. There's a cluster of people who want to sit in South Bombay. There's a cluster that wants to sit in Andheri. There's a cluster that wants to sit in Thane. No problem at all. I think that, and then the productivity of the people will tremendously also increase, because of the fact that at the end of the day, if I don't have to commute for 2 hours a day in my life, then I can put that either at home, I can put that to good use at home, or I can put it to good use in the office. But either way, you will find that, look, if an office is, this is going to happen, will be very, very closely located to where the people are, then the productivity will be driven upwards. So we've talked about the opportunities with clients. We've talked about internal structuring of organization. We've talked about how we are going to deal with people. I think these are the things that at least are always top of the mind for me. There are a couple of more slides that we can run through very quickly. I spoke about the fact that one will have to broad base business, offering complete solutions, because I think the era of super specialization is probably behind us now, and the future lies in offering solutions to clients, where at least like what we have done at Hunt Partners is that we have said we will have a board practice which is very vibrant. We will have a leadership development practice. So you need to have your tentacles in the client for different reasons, so that if side A of it gives business, you can drive side B to actually give business through the interconnect, which really means that if you're dealing with the HR person for a certain part of your business, you can probably deal with another part of the HR department for some other aspect of your business, which can then lead you to further more opportunities. And I think that's the kind of solutioning that our clients are also expecting. There's also a big view around the fact that your teams could be composed of freelance people, because somebody may say, well, I can work for 4 hours a day. Is that okay with you? In the past, everybody would have said, no, 4 hours, sorry. How can that even work? You need to be in the office. But if I have a super productive individual who sits at home and works 4 hours a day, why should I have a problem with that? Because my client is never going to see them. The era has changed where they need to be physically located. I give them an email ID which says Hunt Partners, and they are as seamlessly integrated into the organization as anybody else. So you can build a low-cost organization which is much flatter, with less infrastructure, with people that are freelancers. And then where is the money really going to get spent? So the money is going to get spent on technology, which is what I had said earlier, the digitalization. So whether it is digitalization of our client's business or it's the digitalization of our own business, but one would really now have to think about spending serious amounts on technology to get to a point where you can have a seamless experience with your client, and also to enhance your productivity. The one thing that I think will not change is super specialization from a practice perspective. So if somebody says, I'm intensely focused on investment banking, I think that's going to stay. If somebody says, I'm intensely focused on media, I think that's going to stay. Why? Because of the fact that, as I said right up in the beginning, clients are only going to expect more faster at a cheaper cost. And so it is only those headhunters who are super specialized that would have the ability to put talent on the table faster, of a more meaningful nature. But you see, that can coexist with the additional practices that you may like to bring on board, as I was saying earlier, so that you are providing a more holistic solution to your client. And that actually brings me down to the end of what I wanted to share with you all today. The last slide is just a summary, in a way. If we can bring up the last slide, that would be great. Thank you. That only the brave will survive and the fittest will thrive. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Sunit. I think, you see, we are going to live with glitches, so that's all right. So I think that's the way to grow. That's how, one would put it. You have taken us to the journey as far as how the change is happening in the business that we are. And you also mentioned about how we as an organization, which is into the larger terminology of recruitment, are bound to change now, and how we are already changing. I think Yeah, I just wanted, we have some questions also which are there. Your entrepreneurial journey, which is there, which also now gets into the operational role part of it. Do you think that part of it is going to change in that way? When I say that there is a number pressure which is there, and there is a people leadership issue that is also there as such. How do these two sit side by side? So that's the question that I have for you.
That's always been a very big challenge in the recruitment industry. If you see organization building, and I did want to touch about on this. I don't know whether my answer will actually answer your question or not. And so if it doesn't, please tell me. But if you think about what's happened in the recruitment industry over the last 25 years, we have really seen very few large organizations growing, despite the fact that people like you and me have been at it relentlessly, with this dream that one day we will become 25 partners or we'll become, 250 people, but it doesn't happen. We hit this kind of point where after which then it gets capped off. It's almost like a glass ceiling. Either you find it hard to retain talent, or you find it hard to retain your partners. And any number of organizations, even the MNCs, the Shrek firms as we call them, right? They are also not, they are suffering from the same problem in a country like India. And I think there's no way out of that, Amal. If this answers your question, there's no way out of the fact that one has to keep on putting in the time and effort to keep on trying to build. But what I think we haven't done, to be very honest, is two things. One is we haven't really shared wealth with our colleagues in the manner in which it should be shared. And that is one of the reasons what I think is that we are unable to retain partners. Also, the decision-making process. It is, in most firms, it is gravitating towards one or two individuals. So the wealth and the governance is an issue where most of it gravitates towards a couple of people, and then others, they feel left out. And if we were to take a leaf out of the book of maybe a KPMG or an EY, what we would find is that they were able to transcend that barrier, and they were able to give up control, give up the governance into a larger body, where you would say, okay, guys, on the table, if there are 10 people, everyone gets one vote. Every big decision is put to vote. And the founding partners figure out a model for, in a very realistic way, sharing the equity of the firm, the dividends of the firm, the profits of the firm. Even if it is skewed, it doesn't matter. But for having a proper system where this dividend can actually be shared, where the profits can actually be shared, I think that is one part. The second part is we are all very shy of combining forces. I don't know whether it's an India thing, whether we all Indians are like that, or is it, a structural issue. But nobody wants to. You have two partners, I have two partners, somebody else has three partners. Practices. People don't want to band together. So this whole issue about firm building on one side and the operational aspect of it, and the recruitment aspect, which is our daily job, which gives us our bread and butter, I think is stuck on these two paradigms, if you ask me.
Yeah, good. Thank you. I think that was great. Yes. Do we have questions now? Who would like to? Is Marcel? Do I see Marcel there?
Amalda, I will want to ask a question from Sunit. This is Tusharika here from Microset.
Yeah, Tusharika. Yeah.
Great. So Sunit, it was a pleasure hearing you, and you did bring out quite a few points that all of us are suffering from. My one question to you, Sunit, is in terms of your business development. So I'll give a very quick background about us. So we are a retained search firm specializing in agri, life sciences, and manufacturing segments. And we transitioned from being a contingent firm to a retained search firm about 5.5, 6 years back. Yeah, and of course, there's a massive competition given that we are not a global brand. There is a massive competition that comes from the contingent firms, and we always said that, look, quality speaks for itself, and we are not going to work on assignments wherein we don't get a retainer fee and where the position is not exclusively shared with us. But of late, we have already started hearing that, even the global search firms are compromising on their exclusivity and on their retainership. So I wanted to understand from you, has there been any change in strategy for Hunt partners as far as their pricing model and engagement model is concerned, specifically for India?
Yes, a very good question, Tusharika. I can tell you that it would be a stretch to say that the terms have changed a lot. I don't think at least we are seeing that. But I'll tell you what we are seeing. So it's not that I want to duck your question. So, it's very hard for a corn ferry in India or a Hydric and struggles in that we won't take 33 1/3% and a 1/3 on short. The offer acceptance, which is what their normal terms are. Ours are slightly less. We will take 25%. It's a 4-part payment, so we stagger it on shortlist, offer acceptance, and joining. And then there is some variations that you can have, which we always had. Maybe you can make it 20, 30, things like that, right?
Sure.
But like you're rightly pointing out, it has to come with an advance. If you don't give an advance, we are not going to start the work, and we won't do something which is 20/80. So I haven't really seen too much of a variation on that. But what I have seen, if pressure is, when there's pressure, number one, all firms, including us, will agree to a fixed fee.
Sure.
Now, how do you actually decide the fixed fee? Okay. So the customer says to you, we are going to pay 1.5 crore rupees for this position. It's a 1.5 crore CTC for this position.
Right.
I'll say, chalo, it's 25%. That means I'll charge you 37.5 lakhs. But I also know, and you also know, 37.5 lakhs is a huge amount of money. I can even do it at 27.5 lakhs. Why can't I do it at 27.5? So I tell the client 27.5. The client says, okay, fine. Then what happens next? What happens next is finally they end up paying 2.5 crore rupees. So then in reality, what are my fees? 10%.
Right.
This is what is happening, right? This is one which is happening. Another which is happening is, we know the client is now hot. We know the client is deliberating. It's going to be between us or it's going to be between maybe 2 other parties, right?
Right.
We will start sending CVs. On what basis are we sending those CVs? We'll say to the client, well, you know what, why don't you have a look at these candidates? Yeah, if you start maybe thinking about them, you start maybe meeting a couple of them, you'll get a better sense of 2 things. You'll get a better sense of, what is our delivery capability, and we'll also get a better sense of, what works for you. Now, in the meantime, what's going through the client's head? The client is thinking, oh, I already got 2 CVs from these guys. And if those CVs are good, which they usually are because of the fact that, we know what we are doing. And, this is good for generic positions. This is not good. This method is not good if you're going to be finding a rocket scientist, right? That will never work. But so most of the positions are reasonably generic. So what we are finding is that all these companies, and mind you, Egon Zender is separate. Egon Zender is one unique animal in the world. God knows, Harvard case studies have been done on that company. You cannot club it with any of the other recruitment companies thing, because first of all, they are European, the others are all American. What we know about recruitment and executive search in India is pretty much a American phenomena. It is not a European phenomena. So they are so different. We have just keep them aside in the conversation. But yes, Spencer will do this, Hydric will do this, Corn Ferry will do this, Russell Reynolds will do this. And obviously all of us in a Trans Search or a Hunt Partners will be very happy to say, here's 2 CVs. Why don't you have a look? So everybody has to become agile. Everybody has to be willing to put their, best foot forward. Everybody has to be willing to go beyond the earlier requirement. You can't say, "Jab tak aap, sorry, until you sign the contract, until you give me the first advance, I'm not going to show you anything." Yes, of course, if you're not sure about the customer and the customer happens to be such kind of an animal that may not pay you, that's very different. That's very different. So, those kind of customers, one will have to treat very, very differently. But I'm saying by and large, you have good quality clients. You have hardly any situation where, if a contract is already in the process of being discussed, that they are going to renege. So what happens if they haven't even yet, because many situations genuinely it takes time for the, legal approvals to come from the client.
True.
So yeah, these are the kind of things which are going on as such, and this is how it's being done.
Okay, cool. Thanks so much for your response, Sunit. It helped.
Amal, this is Marcel here. Can I?
Yeah, Marcel, I was looking for you.
Sunit, nice to see you after so many years. And very, very interesting.
Yeah. In fact, somebody remarked, Raju remarked that, and I look, he's a splitting image of
so much
father.
like your dad. My question is that, a lot of us, I think, are struggling really with creating talent for the search and recruitment industry. There is no certification available in this country. There's no certification actually available in most parts of the world, unless you count MOOC courses. But do you see an opportunity, let's say for an organization like ERA, or ISEC or whatever it is, to start work on this? Is not going to happen overnight. And the profession desperately needs trained professionals. And there are lots of good people around the table, Amal and so many others are there. Can we do something in that area? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a fabulous, fabulous thought, Marcel. It is desperately needed. You are 100% right. We must be the only industry where pretty much anybody can walk in and tomorrow, a telephone, I've become a headhunter.
Yeah.
It doesn't work like that. This is a trade. It's like any other trade. If you want to learn how to be a singer, you have to practice at the knees of a master. If you want to be a cricketer, you have to have a coach. How can it be that you wake up in the morning one day and you can become a great recruiter? So at Hunt Partners, we created something called the Hunt Academy. I don't think we would have done something terribly unique, but at least we made an attempt. I know that other firms have also done similar things where we took a level by level, and not hard to do that. What is the job role and what's the requirement? And we made in total about, I think, 20 modules, which everybody has to go through as they climb the ladder. And the important point is that it has to be taught by the practitioners. So that means, let us say that, if ERA sets up something similar, and if you are going to talk about stage 3 assessment capability, which is usually not required unless your client is extremely fussy and says, I want deep dive assessment, then it has to be done by somebody who's qualified to teach that.
Very true.
If you're going to do something like, secondary sources research, right? Okay. You don't need somebody that senior, but you still need somebody proficient. And so maybe the members can volunteer their good employees, because I tell you why volunteer, you know this better than me, Marcel. If you teach a subject, you only become better at it.
Yeah.
So by the members volunteering their best team members into this pool to teach, they're not giving away something, which is proprietary. Instead, that individual will come back only more capable than they were before they went in to train the junior people.
Indeed, I think that's a very, very good point. And we shall leave that with Amal to drive that forward. But I think as an industry, we need to do that now.
Thanks, Marcel, for bringing it up, and a great response, I think. Rita, do you have a question? I think. Yeah.
No, Amalda. No, Amalda. Thank you.
So,
what a wonderful session. Wonderful session, Sunit. Awesome. Great points came up here. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, because we are at 5 right now. So I just wanted to give Rajul. Yes.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Tell me.
Tell me, yes.
Yeah.
You wanted
Hello?
to say something.
No, I don't want.
Sorry, I had one question. I just had one question. Do you have time for one question?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
Yeah,
Nagarajan, absolutely.
So, Sunit, as we all know today, currently, almost in all the corporates, either 20% of the people are working from home or 40 or 70 different numbers. But post-COVID, we really don't know what is going to the actual scene, whether everybody is going to be called back or maybe they'll just call 10%, 15%, depending upon the requirement of each of corporates. Now, during the presentation, you also made a point that most of the clients are typically not open if the candidate does not relocate. Okay, that's the usual psyche, which as of now it is there.
Right.
But I want to ask one question. Post-COVID, if there is an excellent candidate who says, I will not relocate, but I'm ready to work from my own location, and maybe I'll just come twice a month or once a month, how open the corporate should be, do you feel? Will the psyche really change post-COVID?
I don't think that the answer is binary because, it takes time for these habits to change. But let us say that at least there will be a good quality discussion on that subject. And the reasons that we had before to decline such candidates have gone down. That's for sure.
That's for sure, yeah. Great.
Right?
Right.
So, I'm sure if there's a super candidate on the table, there will be a very good quality discussion around the mobility of this individual.
Thanks, yeah.
But yes, as if some people say that we will have to live with COVID and these pandemics are going to become the norm. Then obviously all this will become a habit.
Correct.
Once it becomes a habit, then clearly I think working from wherever you are will become the norm.
Correct.
But that it's too early to say that.
I know. Fine. Thanks a lot, Sunit. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Prakash, do you have any question?
Amalda, can I ask one more question?
Yeah, sure.
Tusharika here.
Yeah, Tusharika.
Great. Sunit, you mentioned that it is very specific to India, probably, wherein we do not believe in joining forces, or we are unable to join forces. So if I was to ask you, as hunt partners, what has prevented you from reaching out to other search partners and seeking their support in joining hands with you? And what probably could be done to bridge this gap?
See, at the end of the day, we are also only Indians, right? So we are suffering from the same problem.
So what in our unique Indianness is, preventing us from doing that, So when we talk about competencies, specifically which competency we are lacking to, which if corrected probably will be better place to join hands or join forces?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a really, we haven't been able to solve for this. But I tell you, it's so funny that we are divided as a country in 100 different ways. We are divided on the basis of language, geography, culture, religion, caste. I mean, before I started working, I actually had grown to believe that, the caste system doesn't exist in our country anymore. That's what we had been taught in school. And now you realize as you grow older and older, that it is so deeply rooted in our country, right? And the religious issues and I have candidates, I have clients, from Chennai. They're very polite, So they will say, can you get us a candidate who is, his home base should be in Chennai. They don't want to say we want Tambram openly, right? But so what do you say? What do we do, right? I mean, that's us. We are Indians. We can't run away from it. But to answer that question again, very few examples exist in reality of firms that have actually been able to join forces. And honestly, I don't have a good answer for you over there as to what it would take. But perhaps it could be a combination of the fact that they are complementarity of practices. I would like to use the cliched phrase that there should be complementarity of values. It's a very hard one. It's a very hard one.
Maybe, Tusharika, you see, and Sunit, we as members of Mehra, there are member firms which are collaborating with each other. and they are doing it, over a period of time, and they have done it quite successfully. So we know for sure people who are sitting over here, many of them worked, side by side on certain mandates which are there, which they are not specialized, so they give it to somebody, who does the job well, because we all know about each other's strengths as such. So ERA, in that way, we have built up that platform where people can, go ahead and do, and join forces with others as such. So we have done that to Sharika. So I will be happy to share, what type of sharing is done and on what platform. But the central thing is that the value should be something where we don't compromise on, and we share the values, and then only the chemistry happens. That's how it is. So that's important. But for search firms, I think it would be, I don't know whether it will be easy or difficult for them to, because the way in which they see the process part of it is too individualistic in the sense as a firm as such. And they're getting into another firm, their process, which I'm sure would be giving results to them. Then adaptation of that, they find it perhaps difficult. But as I say that, now increasingly, even in Europe, there is a move where some of the search firms, not the names that you have given, of course, they are collaborating with each other and they are doing it and all. So that time has to come where, these things would be important for going forward.
And it's interesting that, we partner with this firm called Eric Salmon, since you mentioned Europe. And there was a firm that got set up about 3 years, maybe 5 years back in Singapore. They just took the 3 names of the 3 lead partners, and it was called DST. One day, Eric Salmon came to DST and said, we are going to acquire you guys. And it took them like 1 month to stitch up everything. And DST became Eric Salmon. And that was how Eric Salmon got started in Singapore. And they came to us with the same proposal. And we said, boss, हमारा तो पिछले 15 साल से हम ये brand बना रहे हैं. How can we change the name to Eric Salmon? Same, that thought started coming into our head. But, I don't know whether I'm saying whether it is Westerners think differently or other nations think. That's okay, no big deal. DST partners, big deal. Usko udao, DST partners, bring ESP, it doesn't matter. So,
yeah, that's right.
And the value is tremendous if one can actually, because then your back offices can be combined, your middle offices can be combined. You can actually shave off so much cost.
Yes. Good. Thank you very much, Nagarajan. I think.
Can I ask you a question, please, Sunit? I have a small question. Business development has always been extremely challenging for our business, right? And in these times where we can't meet people and people are not very open to, making new relationships over Zoom or whatever. So is there an answer to how business development can be done? Especially because, we have been dealing in certain industries, and now with the new normal, there are some other industries which many of us have not been specialized in, and we want to reach out to them. So how do you have any answer to how to kind of
this is a good, very good question, and it's a big issue that gets debated in every firm, and it's the biggest bugbear for everybody, no doubt, and COVID has only made it harder. But there are 2 parts to this question. The first part is the easier one. I call it the Goya formula, GOYA. What that really means is get off your ass, which people don't do. What that really means is
which is not possible today.
Today, it's not possible with COVID. But in figurative terms, what I mean to say is that it really means that you got to go out and make phone calls. You got to go out and meet people. It doesn't matter who you meet. What we have seen is it's the solution and the problem really lies in how many calls you make, how many meetings you make. It's funny. I used to think after 20 years of being in the business, one day it will be like a doctor's practice. I'll sit and the phone will ring. It doesn't happen. The day I stop doing business development, the day I stop going out in the market, the day I stop meeting my clients and potential clients and making those phone calls, the business comes down to zero. It's literally like an accelerator on the gas pedal of a car. If you press the accelerator, you will get business. You take your foot off the accelerator, gone. So that's one part.
Sad
The second
but
part
true.
is
Yeah.
really around the, yeah, yeah, sad but true. The second part is around the fact that, if you want to get into new sectors, then you have to obviously build a practice. Building a practice means you have to build capability. Building capability means understanding the talent base. And it's that whole rigor that we go through about, meeting talent, first of all, understanding what the needs of the sector might be. And then slowly and surely building up a practice in that area. But building a new practice takes at least 4 to 5 years of time. It's not easy to build a new practice. You have to, painstakingly, brick by brick, build a practice. Writing white papers helps a lot. Articles, whatever you want to do. But it's a long journey to build a practice.
Yeah, true.
Good. Thanks, Sunit.